Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do a little reading wrap up from November and December, and I'm so excited. I feel like these were really good reading months and I had some of my favorite books of the year in them, so I'm so excited to share them with you. Yeah, and I think I have some good recommendations here. So I'm gonna go in order. So starting in November, we have, and this was actually in my favorites video, top book of the year. Though, spoiler alert, I do think it changed after I finished what I was reading in November, or in December. Anyway, the book is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I loved this book. I thought this was so cool. I thought this was unlike anything I've read before. And I've talked about it so many times. I'm not gonna stay on it too long, but this is dark academia, Shakespearean. It's like almost formatted like a play. It's super cool, and I feel like even if you're not a theater kid, you would enjoy this. And if you really like dark academia and kind of like thriller vibes in that setting, I think you'd really enjoy this. So big fan of that. Next, sticking with the theme, I read the Atlas 6, and this is also big dark academia. This is like Alexandrian society. They're holding all the secrets of the universe in this library, and only 6 people have the chance to kind of compete to access them. So I read this after If We Were Villains, and I thought it was so cool. And it's definitely different enough because this is like magical vibes, and they all have like different powers. So I'm a huge fan of that. I love magic in a book. So it's almost like a creepy Harry Potter-esque vibe. Very much enjoyed that. Next, we needed a little palette cleanser, so hopped on over to romance, but this was like kind of like romance with a fantasy twist. Like the main theme was romance, but it took place in like this really cool setting. It's kind of like she like accidentally ends up on this ship, and they're like the hunters of the universe. Like it's a bunch of different universes, and they're pirates, and anyone who comes to their universe accidentally, they have to hunt down. And so you can either be hunted down or join the pirates, and so she is forced to join. And then she has this, like, of course, this little romance with the captain, and she makes him question everything that he knows. And yeah, it's just like, honestly, it's a quick read. It's fun romance, fun fantasy vibes. I enjoyed it, and I wasn't expecting to be like, oh, the plot's kind of decent, but it was. So I like this. Oh, I'm not giving these rankings. Totally forgot. I'd say this is like a 3.5 star. This I would do like 4, maybe 4.5. And this is a 5 star. So I'm gonna remember to give them rankings going forward now. Next, we have Lost and Lassoed, and this came out in November, I think maybe late October. But of course I had to read immediately. This I was so excited for because it's the single dad, sister's best friend. They hate each other, but suddenly they don't anymore. This was perfect. If you like Elsie Silver, you're gonna love this. If you like specifically Heartless by Elsie Silver, you're gonna love this. It was so good. It gave everything I needed it to, and I ate it up and finished it so quickly. So I think this is like 4.5 stars for me. Next, we have the sequel to the Atlas 6, the Atlas Paradox. I didn't enjoy this as much as the first one. I still thought it was cool. I still liked being in the world, but I do sometimes just have issues with sequels. It's like filler and a lot of setup. So I didn't feel like there was like a lot of revelations and like new things that were coming up in this. They do like immediately get in back into the story, which I appreciated. It wasn't like a lot of like, oh, what's going on? Like immediately they jump back into the main plot, and you kind of follow it and you get swept away. So I still enjoyed reading this, but like just looking back on it, I felt like the Atlas 6 had so much more where I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. And this was a lot more just like, yeah, like I kind of figure at this point, like I kind of knew what was gonna happen. I still haven't finished the series. I still have to read the 3rd book, so hopefully the 3rd book redeems. But this, I'd still give it like 4 stars just because I love Olivia Blake. I love her writing, and I really enjoy the world of this. So yeah. Okay, next we have By the Book by Jasmine Guillory, I think is how you say her last name. Sorry if I butcher that. This is part of the Disney series that I have been reading the past year, which is like just a bunch of different romance authors. Each of them get a Disney princess, and so this was Belle's book. I realized I have read Jasmine Guillory before, and I was not a fan of the last book. I did like this one more than that. I don't know what it is. Like, I just took a while to get through this book, and like if I can read the Atlas 6 faster than a romance, like I think we're having an issue with me being engaged in the romance fully. And once again, it could just be because it's not what I was in the mood for at the time, or it could just be because it's just not the book for me. And so I thought it was okay. I thought it was interesting. I love Belle. I love like the library aspect, the fact that they're writers. She goes to this guy's estate and basically helps him finish his book, and he's like super grumpy, and she's like super like upbeat and cute, and usually I kind of like that vibe, but I don't know. It could also just be like I wasn't like really invested in the two of them getting together, and in a romance book, if you're not invested, like why are you reading it? So yeah, that took me a while to get through. I thought it was like fine, like well written, but yeah, not my favorite. I give it like a 3-star. Next, we had Half a Soul. I read this when I went home, and my mom had it, and she said it was a 5-star read, and she is a harsh critic. So I was like very intrigued, and yeah, this book was amazing. It was so cool. It was like kind of like Regency era romance with a fantasy twist. Love. And basically the main character in it, she has half a soul, like half her soul was stolen by a fae early on in her life, so she just like reacts to things differently and is like just like very different kind of main character, and her POV was so interesting, and I really enjoyed it because it's interesting to see like what like parts of her like are like carrying when she like supposedly is not able to like have the same emotions as regular human beings. And then also like her romance with this guy and how he understands her, and how he's usually also misunderstood but she gets him, and the two of them like it's just perfect. Yeah, so it has like it has the fun like Regency romance vibes, as well as like a cool like fantasy undertone, and they're like trying to solve this issue in this society together using magic. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, and honestly it was a 5-star book. I have no notes, and it was just a good book. Like it wasn't even the romance that compelled me, like it was very compelling, but it was just the storytelling and the plot that I really enjoyed. Okay, now we are moving over to December. The first book I read was one that I've been trying to finish for months, and that is Savage Lands book number 5. I'm the type of person who, if I start something, I need to finish, especially a series, even if I dislike it. I just like, and maybe I need to work on this in the new year. I just feel like I've spent so much time already. I just need to commit to it, you know? Like, come on, you've read 4 of these books, read the other 4 type thing. Even though I didn't enjoy the process of reading most of those books anyway. Like, I don't know why I read them. I didn't enjoy them. And I didn't enjoy book 5 either. This was my least favorite yet. I was gonna say the worst, but I do think this is my opinion, and other people may enjoy these. It just wasn't for me, and I might have to DNF the rest of the series. I don't know why I'm really pushing so hard to keep reading. I'm not enjoying it. It really, to me, is like torture porn. Like, it's just everything gets worse and worse, and you think she's hit rock bottom, and she goes down further, and it's just like, she's just miserable. Everyone is miserable. Terrible things are happening to everyone, and that's what it's been the last 5 books. Like, I can only read about so much negativity for so long, and I don't even care that much about the romance, because I mean, book 5, they've been together. We know they're gonna be together, and there's not even like smut anymore because they're just in jail. Like, they're in like the worst jail on earth that like just tortures them. And yeah, I just can't do it anymore. So I think this is my sign to DNF the rest of the series. But yeah, so that was the first book I read in December. I give that like, I think I gave it 2 stars. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't give them out often, but I just couldn't do it. Next, we have Reckless by Lauren Roberts. I've read Powerless and Powerful in October, I think, and I was not impressed greatly by Powerless. I like enjoyed it and thought it was a fun read, but Powerful I thought was amazing. This I'd say is like in the middle of the two. If you really like romance, I think you're gonna enjoy this, because that's like basically all that happens in this book, is like it's like the back and forth between the 2 main characters. Again, it's kind of a filler book, but the filler was romance, so I enjoyed this more than the first one, honestly. Like, the first one has the games and that aspect of it, but to me, it just like, it wasn't created in a way where I was like wowed. So I would rather have a filler, like mostly romance book, than like a, I don't know, it's hard. I really did compare the first book a lot to Hunger Games and Red Queen. mostly Red Queen, which I'm a big fan of, and this felt more of its own thing, and I felt like I hadn't read it. It did get a little repetitive, but once again, it's like just the back and forth between the two main characters who I want to be together, so I enjoyed it, and I enjoy, like, they do have good, like, chemistry and, like, back and forth, so that was my favorite part of this book. So I'd give this, like, maybe like a 4-star. I don't know, it's hard. I'd say like 3.5, actually. Yeah, I'd give this 3.5 stars. Next, we read The Wedding Witch by Erin Sterling. I read the first 2 of these books in October, and they were more of like Halloween vibes, and this was definitely more of a Christmas vibe. They're in like a mansion for like a wedding, and they're like solving the issue of this ghost together. Well, they're solving a lot of issues together. This is just really cute. It's about this guy, he's a witch, and he's like been trying to like procure these magical objects for forever for like an unknown reason, and he hires this girl who's a human to help him get these. So they start working together, and he's technically her boss, and they both clearly are attracted to each other. But I just really enjoyed their back and forth, like before they like meet up in person at the mansion. It shows their text back and forth, and like they just have a good banter to them. I do love the vibe of the mansion. They go back in time. It was really fun. I really enjoyed this one. So I'd give this like 3.5 stars. Next, my hyperfixation of the month, the Caraval series. I read the first book, and then I immediately read the second and the third. I enjoyed this so much. I just love the world that Stephanie Garber is able to create. I loved it in Once Upon a Broken Heart. I loved it here. Especially like the game aspect in the first one is so cool. And the way that they tell you nothing is real constantly. And I still thought everything was real. And so it's just so fun to be in this character's head. I really enjoyed the main character in this book, Scarlet. I like her sister too, but I'm always gonna relate to an older sister more. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I loved the love story in this. I loved the games. I loved being in her head and kind of like figuring it out with her. The twist at the end got me. I was not expecting it. And like I felt like it was one twist and then another. So it like really keeps going, which I appreciate about this series. Like every time you think you've like uncovered and figured it out, they like do something else. So I really enjoyed this one. I think this is like a 4-star read. Very fun. Next, I read Legendary, the sequel, and so this is about the younger sister, Donatella. And I didn't think I was gonna like this as much because again, I wasn't obsessed with her character in the first book, but I was happily surprised. I liked her story a lot. I liked her romance. I thought it was really cool. And I thought this was a good sequel to it in that it like still had a lot of the aspects that I liked from the first book, but it didn't feel like repetitive at all. I'd give that probably like a 4-star too. And then I read the final book, Finale, and this brought both stories together and kind of like followed all of the different characters, and this was really fun. I loved the weaving of the stories together. I loved seeing how like they've set the stage for some of these things since like the first book. I thought this was a great finale to the series. I like feel like I can't say too much without spoiling it. Just read the first book. You're gonna read the first book and then you're gonna get into the series. So yeah, I think I give the final book a 4-star. I'd say this is like a solid 4-star YA fantasy series. If you're into like kind of fairy tale, almost like folksy tales, like kind of almost like The Cruel Prince, or like if you've read like The Iron Fae, like it almost reminds me of that. Very fun. It's like where the fairy tales that you've heard about like are actually become real. So that was really fun, and that was so fun to get into just for December. So I enjoyed that a lot. Next, I read The Game Changer by Lana Ferguson. I have been in the Lana Ferguson era lately. I think she's really fun. I really enjoyed like the first half of this book. The first half of this book, I thought this was gonna be like a 4-star read. And then unfortunately, the second half I was not obsessed with. I'm the type of person who, once we're together, I'm just like, okay, end the book. You know, like I don't like it to drag on too much, and I felt like this, like they were together and then I become uninterested. Maybe that's a me issue, but yeah, so I just like, I don't know, I really loved the buildup of them getting together because it's fake dating, they're childhood friends. She's always had a crush on him, and she's always been younger than him, so he's finally like seeing her now. I love that trope so much. He's of course a hockey player, love a hockey romance, and she's a baker. So I just thought it was so cute, and I love the buildup of it so much. And then as soon as the buildup was over, I just didn't love it, and I didn't like the conflict in the end. I didn't think was that interesting, and I kind of guessed it. So this is like a 3.5 star. I still think it's worth reading just because of the first half, but it could have been better in my opinion. And then we have 2 really fun reads that I didn't include in my top books of the year because I hadn't read them yet. I don't know if I would have included this one. I definitely would have included the second one. The first one is The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Allie Carter. As soon as I saw the cover for this, I knew I was going to enjoy it. Also, it's Allie Carter. I enjoy everything she writes. I've been a fan since I knew how to read, basically. I'm so glad I read this in December. Perfect time of the year for it. It's like a mystery in a mansion like out in Scotland, and there are 2 mystery authors who are flown there together for unknown reasons, and she hates him and thinks that they're like nemesis, I think it's nemesis, and he clearly doesn't understand why she thinks that. And so I love their back and forth. I love their banter. They're so fun, and I love like the mystery they're solving. Like her favorite author goes missing and they're trying to figure out what happened to her, and it's just so fun. I really enjoy it. I love the romance between them so much, and I thought that was just as strong as the overall plot, which was so cool. And I was like, what did happen? And it keeps like, there's like a sinister vibe. It's like a cast of characters, almost like Clue-like, where you're like, who did it and who was like the enemy. And I loved the revelation at the end too, when they like kind of solve it. I would definitely recommend. I think this is like a 4-star read. And then next is Heartless Hunter. Like, I'm sorry, this would have been my top book of the year if I had read it in time for that video. This was so good. It has everything I like in a book. Enemies to lovers, fantasy, good world building, good tension between the characters, good cast of characters. Good revelations at the end, good build up for the next book. Like, this was just so good. I was like so enthralled the entire time I was reading it. I literally I told my friends, I was up at like 5 in the morning accidentally, and I just finished the book because I'm like, well, if I'm up, I might as well read it, you know? Yeah. I just enjoyed this so much. Here's my little, I'm gonna give you a synopsis now. She is a witch in a society where witches have basically been like found and murdered, all of them, because they used to be ruled by witches and they were bad witches, so now all witches are bad and evil. And he is one of the most famous witch hunters in their society, and she is a secret witch who like disguises herself as like a silly little socialite, but she secretly is like the vigilante who's been like helping to free all these witches. And she starts to court him to get information, and he starts to court her because he suspects her. Oh my god, hearing that, like, don't you just want to read it already? Like, the 2 of them like kind of liking each other but also thinking the other one is bad, him thinking she's vapid but at the same time being like, but if she's not, I kind of respect her for being able to evade me, but also I think she's evil. Like, it's just so good. Like, I love, and it's dual POV too. I love seeing each of their POVs after they interact. I love their interaction. I love the buildup of their relationship. The end was so good too. I'm like so excited for the next book. It comes out I think in February. Yeah, this was just 10 out of 10 amazing. I'm so glad I read this book. So please, if you need a sign to get into fantasy, this is your sign. Yeah, that was so fun. 5 stars, and like hands down, no notes. And that was the last book I read of the year. So I was like, what a way to end things off. Just give me a reminder why I love reading. But yeah, that is what I read in November and December. Great months, in my opinion. Great reading months. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm so excited to read some more in this new year.